Practice 2.8, we're looking at program design and sequencing our workouts or our muscle movements. So again, scaling back, we look at periodization. We look at the whole season, a purposeful plan to peak. And within that, we have different meso and micro cycles. And we want to, again, progressively train our athlete to the desired outcomes. And how do we do that? We do that by sequencing the different muscle actions and movements based on the needs and analysis of our athletes. So some things to think about here, right, is this is kind of our foundation. And we think about those mesocycles, and really what we found is the sweet spot is really about between 4 to 6 weeks of training is necessary to get the adaptations we're looking for. Anything less than that, really, we're not really getting that Goldilocks effect. We're not getting the desired outcomes we need. If we spend more than 6 weeks in the same training modality, we're going to plateau. We're not really going to see the change. Our body is adapted to those demands. So really, a 4 to 6 week window for each of these mesocycles in order for us to build. And we also want specificity in our training, right? We don't want to spend time doing things that our athletes don't use out on that don't translate to the competition. For example, my wrestling coach when I was in high school, he really didn't want us to do bench presses because he never really wanted us to lay on our back pushing up. That's to get pinned. Right? His goal was we want maybe more of those pulling actions because when we're locked up, we want to snap someone down to the ground. So that was kind of an application of specificity in training. But if we look at sequencing, we've got to begin with stabilization, right? We need to be able to have those core muscles engaged in order to build off of that. And then that requires some strength and endurance, so we want to build off of that. Moving into hypertrophy is some of the muscle growth, and then to build power, the quickness after that. So we can't really just jump in with muscle gain if we don't have that foundation below us. So when we think about specific movements, we want to begin proximal to distal. So what that means is proximal means within proximity to be close, and distal means distant to be far away. So what that means for our body is we want to begin with movements or exercises that are close to our core or our central movements. So we think about our trunk is kind of where we begin. And we move out to the upper body and back, and then our upper legs and glutes. And then we move distally more to our arms and our fingers, legs and toes. I put power, core, and assistance here. So again, our power really comes from movement. So a lot of times, if you see people in the weight room, they spend a lot of time maybe on their biceps and their pecs. Those are maybe more distal movements. But really we need, if you think of every sport, the power comes from the core. I think of any type of rotation or throwing things. So we really need the core to be, that's where our power comes from, and then everything else is the assistance. So I can't really increase my throwing velocity without having a strong core to begin with. So think about developing strength, stability, endurance from the inside out. These are supposed to be animated. I apologize, they're not really coming through in this screen recorder, but if you can visualize these things, or you can also Google some of these images, but you can place these in order from what I should do first as an athlete, and then building more complexity later, more joint activities. Or think about if I have a workout, which exercises would I begin with, and then which ones would I kind of end a session with. So to quick explain some of these things, this guy's sitting on an exercise ball and he's rotating with the weights. I think he's holding a kettlebell. This woman here in B, she's squeezing a tennis ball. C, this woman is doing a plank between two benches and doing a row. D, she's doing kind of a snatch. The weights resting on those pads beneath her feet, and then she's lifting explosively up to her shoulders. E, she's doing a deadlift, right? The weights lift in the down position, then she stands up. F, he's doing some wrist flexor action. G, he's sitting on exercise ball doing internal shoulder rotation. H is doing a lunge with some core rotation. I forget if this animation, if he's doing some pec flexion as well. And then I, she's doing overhead tricep extension. So you can place those in order of which ones we would do first based on some of these protocols.